one of the easier things to avoid that people don't realize is hydration. If you're not drinking enough water, then you've really set your what we call your immune system and your inflammatory response system on edge. That leads to it makes you more susceptible if you're dehydrated, and many of us are. Even though we may be drinking sodas and coffees and other beverages, just not particularly water, we're landing ourselves to be on the end of dehydration at the brink of where we could have renal failure and many times.
Welcome, friends, entrepreneurs, and visionaries to Getting Neighborly, Fairview, Texas's very own gateway to opportunity. Proudly presented by the Fairview Economic Development Corporation. I'm your host, Super Dave Quinn, here to navigate the journey through the heart of our thriving community. In each episode, we unlock the doors of Fairview, offering you a first-hand look at the vibrant life and booming business landscape that define our community. We're not just neighbors here, we're collaborators, innovators, and friends, building dreams and turning visions into reality. From insightful stories of local success to exploring the advantages that make Fairview an ideal community for your business. This podcast is your inside track to discovering why Fairview isn't just a place to do business. It's a place to grow, to belong, and to call home. So whether you're looking to start up, scale up, or simply soak up the spirit of community that champions entrepreneurial success, you found the right spot. Welcome to Getting Neighborly in Fairview, Texas. Let's make your business dream a community success story.
Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of Getting Neighborly, the show where we celebrate people, places, and purpose-driven organizations that make Fairview feel like home. I'm your host, Super Dave Quinn, and today we're getting neighborly. We're sitting down with someone who believes quality of life isn't something you leave to chance. It's something you protect on purpose. Paula Phillips is a licensed occupational therapist with more than 20 years of experience serving patients across hospitals, inpatient rehab, skilled nursing, home health, and community settings. She's led interdisciplinary therapy teams, developed rehabilitation protocols, and helped countless adults recover from major health transitions. But Paula saw something most people miss. Too many families were waiting until a crisis happened before considering prevention. So she founded Calibrating Life right here in Fairview, where she serves as a quality of life consultant, helping adults navigate complex health conditions and aging and unexpected life changes with confidence and clarity. She also works with business owners and organizations to protect their teams from avoidable health disruptions that can impact families and companies alike. Her mission is simple and powerful: to inform, equip, and inspire people to achieve optimal well-being. Paula isn't just helping people recover, she's helping them prepare. And man, we're glad she's our neighbor. So Paula, welcome to Getting Neighborly. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Dave, for having me.
So let's get started at the beginning. Tell us about where you grew up and what really drew you into the occupational therapy industry.
Okay, well, I am a Dallas native, born and raised in North Dallas. I graduated from Lake Highlands High School, go Wildcats. And I didn't venture off far. I received my undergraduate degree at Texas Women's University in Denton. And then from there, I went on to receive my occupational therapy degree at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston. So born and raised right here in Texas. Occupational therapy, it's a unique medical profession in that we look at the physical components, someone's physical ability, the neurological factors, psychological factors, and cognitive components and their environment that enable someone to be able to live their best quality of life. So are you able to physically get up out of the bed and dress yourself? Can you cognitively manage your day-to-day needs, as well as physically, can you walk up a set of stairs? And if you can't, what do we need to do that? If you've had a stroke, we're looking at that. If you have Parkinson's disease, how is that impacting your day-to-day? We work in so many settings, hospitals, obviously. We also work in school systems with children. We work with individuals that are neurodivergent. We are in corporations. We are in the government, lending our expertise for how to roll out holistic and quality of life programming, and at a much higher level, at a systemic level. So we're everywhere, and which is great. Occupational therapy is like combining a psychologist with a physical therapist and even a social worker all rolled up into one. So I wanted to, I had a great high school counselor. And so we were looking at, okay, are we going to medical school, Paula? What do you want to do? And I'm like, I really am infatuated with the nervous system and the brain. I think I want to be a neurosurgeon. But then I wanted to start my family early. So I'm like, a neurosurgeon.
Those two don't work.
So I'm like, I can't quite do both, but where can I combine my passion for how our bodies heal and function, as well as in adding to someone's quality of life when they have had a health crises that totally takes away the parts of themselves and how they identify, like, this is who I am because of what I do. And when you can't do that, we're all at a loss. And so occupational therapy just seemed to be a natural fit for me to be able to help individuals, combining my compassion with medical expertise and knowing that we're more than just, bodies and minds, but we're whole people. And occupational therapy is a holistic medical practice. And so here I am.
Man, I love that because it is. Everybody tries to separate. It's a physical thing, not realizing that it's all one system, right? Like everything is interconnected and it all works together. And if you're just working on one piece of it, then you're missing this whole entire other thing. So,
Absolutely.
well, so now you've worked across hospitals, you've inpatient rehab, skilled nursing, home health. You've got a breadth of experiences in the last 20 years. So, what are some of the patterns that you start to notice over time?
There's so many. Let's start with people not having a full understanding of how their singular health condition impacts everything else. They don't know. And the pattern I've realized is most people are uninformed about their health in general. They know they have a diagnosis, but they don't know how that shows up in their everyday life. The second piece pattern that I've noticed is that as health professionals, we take a lot of things for granted and expect people to just know. Like, but you have this. Well, that doesn't, just because I have diabetes doesn't mean I really understand that I'm at risk of having an amputation on my leg because I had a small cut on my foot that I didn't manage.
Oh,
I mean, there's so many layers to it, and people don't understand it. And as medical professionals, we can take that for granted that they know because you have it and some doctor diagnosed you with it. So someone told you about it, but we don't do a really good job of continuing that downward stream of informing and equipping individuals to take control of their health and to be aware of the things that they can do to, improve their quality of life along the way. So those are the
yes.
two main trends that or patterns that I have seen.
All right. I'm just thinking about that. Like, you're in it every day, right? So you're like, it's common knowledge and language to you. But if I'm not interacting in that way, so I wouldn't know the downstream consequences, right? And so that starts to explain why some people don't really change their behavior because they don't realize all the whys or what ifs if they don't.
Correct.
All
Correct.
right. So was there a moment when it sort of clicked for you that, hey, wait a minute, I think prevention might be more important or matters more than just reacting to the situation? Was there a moment when it sort of crystallized like, hey, there's an opportunity here?
Yes, the moment happened about 5 years before I found a calibrating life. I'm like, Paula, I have, I would say 95% of my clients that I was working with in the hospital setting, the ones that I've helped transition from the ICU to this basic floor in the hospital, then on to an inpatient rehab and continuing that downward stream of recovery. Very few of them, like I said, 95% would say, I wish I would have known this at the beginning. Why didn't anyone tell me I needed to look at my mom's heels? Why didn't anyone tell me that I needed to be aware of the tightness in the back of my leg. Why didn't anyone tell me that I needed to turn my head left to right more frequently when I was in the hospital bed? Why didn't anyone tell me that? And so about 5 years ago, I'm like, Paula, you should do something about it. Like, why are you just saying, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, someone should have told you? There's something more that I can do other than apologizing for it. I could be proactive and I could take all of my years of expertise and find a way to raise awareness about the importance of prevention when it
Ah,
comes to a health crisis. You don't have to just show up there and then start trying to, doggy pedal your way through. That you can have a life raft, and that's calibrating life. So let's start trying to think ahead and inform people what you need to be on the lookout for day one of your hospitalization.
man, I love that. I talk a lot about how we need to move from being a problem spotter to a problem solver, right? Like a lot of people see stuff. A lot of people probably saw the same patterns that you're talking about, but
Yes.
your willingness to step up and say, no, I think I can step in the gap and solve for this. I love that. That is something that I truly love it when people do what you've done. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now you founded Calibrating Life. You live here in Fairview. Let's talk a little bit about how you got to Fairview. Why Fairview? Why are y'all here? What appealed? What about Fairview appealed to you as a business owner and as someone who lives here?
Okay, so well, we moved here first as residents. So I wasn't looking to move to Fairview to start. I mean, I was practicing, I'm running a department. I mean, so I wasn't moving here with sights on starting a business. That came after. But we moved to Fairview because we were living in Dallas at the time. And we wanted a different type of living environment for our children. At that time we only had one. Oh, well, you did. Yeah, both of them were here. We wanted to live in an area where it was just a little bit slower, if you will, the pace of life, while also having the conveniences of, big city life, right? Plano's right up the road, McKinney, and so forth. So we moved here with that in mind. We wanted a different school district for our children to be educated in at the time. And so Fairview just seemed like a right fit. It wasn't too far from the majority of our family, which were living in Dallas at the time. So it was an easy commute for us and it just made sense.
Nice. So for those that may not, we talked about quality of life consultant, and
Yeah.
they might have could have gleaned a little bit about what that is, but like in plain English, if when you introduce yourself and you say I'm a quality of life consultant, what does that really mean?
That means that I am someone that will help you maintain your health throughout your lifespan. That's what a quality of life consultant is. Looking at your health and the how you manage the things that matter to you the most. That's what I do. And we come up with a plan to ensure that that happens no matter what's going on with you medically or physically or even psychologically. You really want to be more engaged in your life, but because of anxiety and depression, it's just not something that you're able to do. Well, let's talk about how that can happen and ways to, adapt and modify routines in order to make those things that matter to you happen.
I really like that, and I think too often too we think about these medical events and beyond the physical limitations that it might create, there does also this emotional, like you lose or you might limit your exposure to your social circle because you're stuck at home, right? And so that comes with a whole lot of consequences and a sort of a down the opportunity for downward spiraling in our thoughts and mental health. So someone like you who can come in and sort of help rebuild all of that and bridge the gap from losing that social activity time, then getting us back into that.
Absolutely. And then also the other piece of that is the individual that's experiencing this spiral, their family members and friends don't understand it either. And the person is in it, they're just kind of spiraling down. And then everyone is like, well, what's up with you? Why can't you just get up and come on out with us? They don't get it. And so I spend a lot of time with my clients and giving them the language to speak with their loved ones about, well, this is what's happening to me. They can't explain it. No one has even told them how to or educated them on that. And so it really is a holistic approach from what the individual is experiencing, to now let's bring your family in and give them an understanding for what's going on too. So bridging that gap helps. So now the kids, the wife, the friends are not just like, you're just being a wimp.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
not
I have a good,
more to it than that. And so I go through a process in teaching people that part of it as well.
I think I had a friend that had that similar issue. He had something happen with his eyes, and it was really off. And he said, up until that moment where he was like, I was depressed. I didn't understand before people would say that. I'm like, just get up and go to work. He was very tough, and he's like,
Mhm.
don't worry about it, just go. And he said, then the stuff happened with his eyesight, and he was like, there was days I just didn't want to get out of bed, and I could not make myself get up and go. And it was like click for him, like, oh, this is what they're talking about. Is like,
Yeah.
I just can't get up. Like there was this thing. So giving them a voice and some vocabulary to help that, I think that's powerful.
Thank you.
So what are some of the biggest misconceptions people may have about occupational therapy and sort of functional recovery? Is there something that, do you get that a lot, that
Yes.
that's not what I mean, sort
Yeah.
of thing?
We're like, I already have a job. I don't need a therapist to help me with my job. And so that is like a running joke. It's like, yeah, you have a job, but you don't realize that living your life is the biggest job you actually have. And that's the part that we help you do better. When a health crisis happens, or it's not even a health crisis. Sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, mental health, like anxiety, depression, other fears that are going on psychologically. And you can't live your life well when you don't know how to manage that piece. So, misconception is that living our lives is the absolute most fundamental, most important job that each of us have. And we don't even realize it's work until you can't do it well or easily. Then,
Right. Well, I think that's some people don't recognize the value until it's not there, right? Like you just assumed it will be there always, and
mhm,
suddenly when you don't have it, now you start to understand, well, maybe I should have taken a little better care of myself because that's more important than I thought it was.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So when you say calibrating life, what are we actually calibrating? That's it feels like that was a very intentional naming of your company. So talk a little bit about calibrating life. What does that mean to you?
Calibrating life, that's the balance of how we live our lives. It's how are we managing our mental health? How are we managing our social life? How are we managing our physical ability? How are we managing those, intimate parts of our life that no one really talks about? So, calibrating all of those aspects from our internal being to our external being. And so, if that is imbalanced, if I am not able to be my social self, if I'm not able to do fulfill my passions in my career, internally, I'm going to be impacted by that. So, if there's a balance exteriorly, then my interior self is also going to have a difficult time with coping, finding pleasure, and calibrating life is a company that looks at an individual holistically, not just how I show up in my job, but if I can't do the thing that I've loved all my life, that's going to impact everything else. That's a huge part of who we are. And if I am not able to do that, then where's the purpose? Calibrating life helps to reshape purpose, reclaim that in the event that something is compromising it.
Nice. I love that. So, what are some of the most avoidable, not most, how about this? What are some of the most common avoidable health setbacks that people walk into? Something that was like, look, this is pretty simple to avoid if we just practiced better, whatever. Is there things like that that you've seen people routinely get into?
one of the easier things to avoid that people don't realize is hydration. I mean, it's the oddest thing, but if you're not drinking enough water, then you've really set your what we call your immune system and your inflammatory response system on edge. That leads to, it makes you more susceptible if you're dehydrated, and many of us are, even though we may be drinking sodas and coffees and other beverages, just not particularly water. We're landing our cells to be on the end of dehydration, at the brink of where we could have renal failure, and many times, and infection like sepsis, and it causes a strain on our hearts when we're dehydrated. Believe it or not, if you were to get a blood test for someone that's dehydrated, there's markers that they look at, and it can almost seem as though, oh yeah, they're having a heart condition right now, but really it's because of other metabolic processes related to lack of fluid, lack of water. So that may
Right.
have
Really,
been a bit too
again,
technical
it's the holistic system that all works together.
system. And so one of the things that most people don't realize that's avoidable is just be hydrated. I mean, it's very simple. Most people don't think about it, but the number of individuals I've seen from age 40 on up to 90 is dehydration, starting the whole domino effect of a number of things. And then the other avoidable situations that I've seen lately is really the digestive system. Most people, their diets particularly, they're not eating well. And so they go into the hospital just with the basic kind of stomach ache, if you will. And then it turns out to be a whole problem. It's called cholecystitis and some other big medical terms, in which they end up having to have a resection of their intestines. And it's just a big, huge problem. And it goes back to our diets, our inflammatories, our immune system, and our inflammatory response. So I would have to say diet and hydration, which are, cousins, if you will, and how we take care of ourselves. It's very avoidable, but we're not doing a lot in that area because we're up and functioning and we don't think much about it. I mean,
Right.
but you'll think a lot about it if you're in the hospital and you're in your 50s or 60s and things just go awry and you're like, wait a minute, doc, what do you mean I have an exterior bag on the outside of my body now? And it's just very disruptive. So I
Right.
would have to say, think about your diet.
Man, diet and exercise and
Yeah, it
hydration.
keeps coming
Okay.
back to that, doesn't it? Diet and
Man.
exercise.
So, for folks who are listening, 40s, 50s, still pretty young. Like we kind of joked before the recording started that, hey, this is, I think about this being for my parents or my wife's aging parents, right? Like, and really, this really is impactful to someone at our age.
Correct.
What are some of the practical things that we should start doing now to protect that future independence? Like, I want to be 70 and going on vacation and traveling, and I want to be healthy so that I can do that. What do I need to be thinking about right now?
So outside of your diet, you want to think about stretching. Believe it or not, your
Okay.
hamstrings, that big muscle in the back of your leg between your butt and your knee.
Oh,
Stretch
I
it.
never stretch those things. What?
Yes, I would have to say stretching, and even working on our balance. Just because you're up and walking doesn't necessarily mean that you have really great balance, believe it or not. So from time to time, every day I would say try standing on one foot in front of your bed with your eyes closed, because if you fall over, at least you have a soft landing. See if you can stand there for 1 minute with your eyes closed. And if you are challenged within 1 minute maintaining that, then you need to do that more often because your balance isn't as good as you thought it was, believe it or not. So, right foot,
Man,
left
that's
foot,
so good.
eyes closed in front of your bed or with your bed behind you, and stretch your hamstrings.
Okay. I can do all of those things. All right. That's good stuff.
That's
I
simple.
like that's awesome.
Yeah.
When we're talking about transitions, we've said health transitions. What major health transitions tend to catch people off guard? What is that? What are we saying? What does that mean when you say that?
The health transition is that diagnosis that you get that you can't ignore. Someone may say, oh, well, you just have like a lower back strain. Okay, no big deal. You go to the doctor and they tell you that you now have hypertension, you now have diabetes, heaven forbid you've had a stroke, you've now had a heart attack. That transition is going to require you to alter how you were living your life before. There's some things that need to change. You can't go back to business as usual, right? If you need
Yeah.
medication to manage some part of your life, then it's not business as usual. Whether it's a diet change, whether it's a lifestyle change, something is going to have to adjust to your new baseline, what we in the medical field we call your baseline health. And so when I am guiding people through those transitions, we're talking about, again, that holistic piece. What is it that you do every day? What matters to you the most? This is what's going to be impacted. How are we going to have a workaround and modify your lifestyle to accommodate what your new baseline health is? So those type of transitions. And then there's some that are a lot more, major. Someone that's had an amputation, that gets to be really different. Someone that now has had a back injury and now it's leading to chronic pain. That looks different when you have a partner and when you have a job that is physically demanding. That's a life transition. And so I guide people through that, again, giving them language to talk to their loved ones, to communicate with them about how I'm going to be showing up in life differently. And so that everyone has a better understanding of what's going on with that individual.
So I can imagine when you have something like that,
Mhm.
that it can really shake your identity, right? So like if your world is built around being the person who does this, and suddenly you get this diagnosis that no longer can be you, how do you help navigate that emotionally? I mean, not just the physical part. I mean, like that's a set of things you can deal with, but how
Right.
do you help with them on the emotional side? Because that's pretty heavy stuff.
It is very heavy. Occupational therapists, we are also mental health professionals. So we go through, identifying what that is, giving language to it, coming up with a strategy to help you out when it comes to dealing with those bad days emotionally. And if it's something that begins to get out of our purview, then we start saying, okay, let's get with the psychologist, right? And if it's, a more of a mental health issue, then we're referring to a psychiatrist. But on the basic level, we're coming up with means for coping. We are developing an emotional plan for this is what I'm going to do when I am dealing with doubt, when I'm dealing with fear, when I don't want to wake up and get out of the bed. This is what we're going to do instead. So we develop these plans with our clients so that we can manage that emotional tsunami, if you will, that's just happened in someone's life.
Well, man, I think this leads sort of into our next question too. Because you also work with business owners. It's not just the individual,
Mhm.
but also business owners and leaders. And again, I'm a small business owner. If something happens to me, it's me. That the business is me. So, and I feel like a lot of our audience could be in that same situation. Why should leaders care about sort of quality of life planning? What does that mean? And from a business standpoint, why is that important?
It's important because if it's just you and you end up in a hospital, what happens next? How do you recover? You're just going to rely on the therapist that comes in the room to see you a few days later after being in the hospital. And then you're going to be relying on them to, if you can't just get back home and do what you need to do, then you're going to be relying on someone else to tell you what to do next. And you're never the one that's in the driver's seat. It's always going to just be happening to you real time. You want to have a quality of life plan so that you already know I need to be on the lookout for tightness here. I need to be looking out for soreness on the back of my head. I need to be looking out for the areas of my skin on the posterior part of my body. I need to be aware of the metabolic changes that happen that's going to impact my nervous system. I need to know these things. No one knows them. You're just going to be in it. And then you're going to be like, why can't I do X, Y, Z? Well, these are the reasons why, because your nervous system was never fully engaged, your sensory motor system, your vestibular system, and on with these big medical, categories because it just wasn't addressed because you were so ill, they were just trying to save your life. So you want to know the things you don't currently know that's going to have an impact, and then you're going to be like, I wish I would have known. So
Right. Well, and we
that's
talked. It's like knowing where you're going to take something if it breaks down. Like you have a piece of machinery, like you don't want to be looking for a mechanic once it breaks down. You want to know who's my team if that thing goes down. It's kind of the same thing with our health. What are my options and what are my plan? And I want to have a relationship with them, or at least know about them before I need them.
absolutely, that is
Okay.
definitely the case. That's why I founded Calibrating Life, because no one knows. You're just going to be in it and figuring it out real time. I have not come across anyone in the medical field that is doing what I'm doing. We have outpatient clinics, for physical therapy and occupational therapy. Like, they're rehabilitating the body, and you can go to your psychologist, but for your mental health. But no one is in this gap that I believe will change the trajectory of individuals' quality of life. Downstream, upstream, depends upon how you feel about going from 40 to 90. I don't know which direction that's going. It's great to make it to 90, but I don't know if I want to make the walk all the way up to 90. So upward, downward, you guys decide. But no one is preparing us for that transition or making us aware of what we need to be on the lookout for. If I could talk to individuals, I have some clients that are in their, late 40s and 50s. A lot of my clients are old, many of them are older. But if we can back that up, and Dave, you have a plan, your wife has a plan, like you guys are going to all know. And then if it happens, you know exactly what to do, and hopefully it won't. But having a quality of life plan is like having an insurance policy. You have it just in case. And that's what you really want to have going into if you're in your 50s and your 60s, if you end up there, be on the lookout for XYZ. And then if you find yourself there and you're not getting what you need, then you can reach out.
Yeah, I can see where it's one of those things where it'd be like, I don't think I need it till I need it. Then I wish I would have had it, sort of thing, right? Like you
Right.
really need to have these things in place. My wife and I are experiencing this a little bit with our son, who's a teenager, and he's got to have a surgery, a nasal surgery.
Mm-hmm.
But it's difficult to navigate. And we both have. She has an advanced degree. She's a master's, and I mean, she's definitely smarter of the two of us. And yet we're still trying to figure out. Like the doctor says, oh, you got to find a surgery center, and navigating all of these different pieces and trying to put it together when you're like, they act like we should just know because like to them it's common knowledge, but to us, like this may be the only time we ever need this one thing. And so how am I supposed to know that? And it's like we're having to get a degree in medical field trying to, and we still haven't gotten the surgery because we're waiting on callbacks, and it's not like car shopping or like there's not a lot of different options. It just is what it is. But we're
Yeah.
kind of stuck because we don't know. We're not in it every day, so we don't know the language and we don't know how to ask the right questions.
Correct. And again, when you asked earlier, like, what is a quality of life consultant? Like, something happens to you medically and you're like, I'm not sure what to do. Call, and we'll talk about it. And then I'll let you know, like, this is who you want to talk to. These are the questions you want to ask. Don't take it for granted that, your doctor is going to tell you everything you need to know. They're going to miss some things. They're
No,
not
that's
thinking about your life outside. Once you have the surgery, once you've done X, Y, and Z, they've done their job. Now go live your life.
right. Well, I barely take care of myself, much less, like, oh man,
Yeah.
that's so good. Well, let's bring it back home a little bit. What does living and working here in Fairview, why does that matter to you? What have you enjoyed about that? What does it mean to you?
What it means to me, it's convenience. It's convenience and it's peaceful. That's it in a nutshell. You have everything. I don't need to drive to Dallas to get anything. I don't need to go up to McKinney for anything. Everything you need is right here in Fairview or within a 10-mile radius. So I love working and living right here in Fairview. There's plenty of things that you can do here. You can be as active or as sedentary as you want to be. it's better to be active, but we have like there's a light ordinance here. You can't have too many bright lights. I'm not sure
Yeah,
people.
people love our dark sky ordinances, man.
Yes,
They do love that.
we love that, and so it's just a pleasant place to both live and work. So
Let's talk about neighbors. This is obviously getting neighborly. What is one thing if neighbors wanted to support one another when it comes to health? What would that look like? How do we help one another be healthier?
I would say reach out, call know your neighbor's name. That helps. Reach out to them if you haven't seen them in a while. Place in a call, knock on the door, and just say, "Hey, I haven't seen you. Just want to check and make sure everything is okay with you." People, if would may be surprised by it, but they would also be like, "Wow, they actually care." So I would just say for us, it's just a matter of talking with one another, and when we ask how someone is doing, like really ask, and not just make it, like a high and by. Make
Right.
something.
I think that's one of the things that we get. It feels like we get right in Fairview is that there is this sort of deeper connection of caring for your neighbor and wanting to know and be engaged. And so I love that answer.
Yeah.
If someone's listening, feels like they need to recalibrate their life, what's one small action that they could take this week that you would recommend? Hey, super small, super simple, one thing just to start to wrap your mind around, sort of this work-life balance that we've talked about.
I would say the one thing that they can do is think about that one thing that's giving you the most angst that's coming up in your day or, throughout your life. And it's just like, this is the one thing that makes me very anxious. I can feel my blood pressure rising. And whatever that is, put it to the side, give it some dedicated time to problem solve in that area.
Mm.
Don't let it just continue to recycle and you are just sitting with it, right? It just kind of keeps coming up every day. Schedule a time to address that, whatever that is, that causes you the most stress. And then develop a plan for how you're going to address it, but you've put it on your calendar. You're not going to keep recycling this Monday through Friday. This is what's making me anxious. This is what's giving me a lot of stress. On Saturday, I'm going to dedicate an hour to really thinking about this thing and figuring out how I'm going to manage that so it just doesn't continue to stay on repeat.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of like when I run, I've got this little, not even a rock. It's like this little bitty pebble thing, and I can feel it, but I don't want to stop and mess up my run but if I don't, then it just keeps on and on and on. And finally, I'm like, for a mile, I've been putting up with it. Then I finally stop and shake my shoe out, and then I'm back running again. If I'd have just done that a mile ago, I
Right.
wouldn't have had all that pain.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So is there one thing that you hope people take away from this conversation? What would it be?
I would say have a plan because we're not always going to be as healthy as we are today.
Man, I love that. That's good.
It.
All right, let's talk. Tell folks where they can learn more about Calibrate Life and how to connect with you.
Okay, absolutely. You can go to my website. It's calibratinglife.com, and that is life, Lyfe. I'm also on Facebook under the same thing, Calibrating Life, Instagram. And so those are the 3 outlets where you can find me.
All right, Paula, thank you so much. We're grateful that you're our neighbor, and we really appreciate you being with us today. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and for giving back to the community, all of the things that you're bringing into the world. We thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Dave, for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, friends, thanks for another spotlight moment here in Fairview. We're grateful to our neighbor, Paula, for reminding us that quality of life doesn't just happen by accident. It's built one habit, one decision, one intentional adjustment at a time. If today's conversation nudged you, don't ignore it. Start small, make the call, adjust your routine. Protect your future before it demands your attention. And remember, if you're here in Fairview, Texas, or you're dreaming from afar, you're always part of our community. And as we wrap up, a big shout out to our friends at VentureX, the premier co-working space here in the heart of Collin County. Whether you need a private office or a collaborative workspace or a place to get things done, VentureX Fairview has you covered with a professional, modern environment designed for your success. So please stop by, check it out. Tell them Super Dave sent you. I'm Super Dave Quinn, reminding you that here in Fairview, Texas, you're not just a neighbor, you're family. And until next time, stay healthy, stay intentional, stay neighborly, and make it a great day. And that's a wrap on another episode of Getting Neighborly from the heart of Fairview, Texas. This is your host, Super Dave Quinn, and I can't thank you enough for lending us your ears and hearts today. If our story stirred something in you, hit the subscribe button. More tales of innovation, spirit, and community await, showcasing why Fairview isn't just a place on the map, but a destination of dreams. Before you go, take a moment to share your love with a 5-star rating and review, because your support means the world to us and helps us spread the neighborly spirit far and wide, inviting others to join our close-knit community. Are you considering giving your business a fresh start or a grand expansion? Fairview, Texas is calling. With unbeatable resources, a supportive community, and endless opportunities, we're here to help you succeed. Dive into possibilities today at www.fairviewtexasedc.com, where your business dreams have a place to grow and flourish. From all of us here at Getting Neighborly Podcast and the Fairview Economic Development Corporation, thank you for your incredible support. Here's to more connections, more stories, and more success together. Until next time, stay inspired, stay driven, and above all, stay neighborly.